Good morning. Welcome all of our wisdom seekers, including myself. Let's take a private moment to get silent, into silence. Loving God, from the beginning of time, you have broken silence and broken into our lives with your love, your truth, your beauty. Help us to be reflections of that truth and beauty and love so that we can be who we really are, genuine, real, holy, and love. We pray this in the name and in the power of Jesus, your Son and our brother, forever and ever.
Amen.
Amen. Okay. Did everybody get the email and everything?
No, I'm not getting one.
Oh.
I was gonna ask you about that.
There's a sign-up sheet back there. Be sure. Okay.
Yeah, but you have it.
Okay. Si quieren poner su nombre para no, después, para recibir email. Okay, let's make sure we know one another. This is Carmen, Maria del Carmen, Consuelo, and Darlene, Jean, Greg, Kathy, and Ruth Ann. Okay, very good. Pope John, St. John Paul III.
Yes.
Okay. In my life of illusion, right? Not that I ever want to be. Okay. So, the sound of the genuine. When you hear that, what do you think of? The sound of the genuine. What does that mean to you when you hear it?
Honesty of just being who you are.
Who you are.
Yeah.
Is it difficult to be who you are?
Yes.
Why? I think that the basis of all of it is fear. You know, we don't want to reveal too much of ourselves. We want to kind of be protected and safe and secure. And it's like the turtle that's trying to get across this desk. Okay, it's got it, walking, and all of a sudden you hear that, and it pulls its neck in and legs in, and it's safe. But it never gets to the end of this table. We're safe, but we're stuck. Okay, so it's a decision we make every day to what kind of risk we want to take in order to be genuine, to live up to our true selves. Richard Rohr speaks a lot about the true self and the false self. The true self is who you are in God. That's the clue, in God. In other words, connected, not separated. The false self is who you think you are and who you think others think you are. And so you try to live up to the false image, the false self. And we feel a sense of incongruity. We don't feel genuine. We feel, well, if they only knew me as I really am, okay, I'd be really in a lot of trouble, So, the saints were the ones who were wholly connected, okay? I want to make sure I don't have a phone. There's my phone right there. I forgot to put it on silent, so hope it doesn't ring. So, I don't like to call the saints holy, because that has an egoic ring to it.
You don't like to call them saints?
The saints holy, H-O-L-Y, because it has a sense of the ego there. I am holy. Too bad you're not, And whereas if you spell it with a W, it's the connected. That's who we are. We really are all connected. We just don't realize that it's not real, and we act as if it were not real. And so we're not being genuine, because we are connected people, but we act as if we're disconnected. That way we can, label people and other people and exclude people and, right, Kathy?
So you said you don't, the saints that themselves probably didn't see themselves as holy.
Not if they're really saints.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's one saint that would have worked for their canonization. It doesn't compute.
But no one can canonize while they're still alive either.
That's right, yeah. And so other people get in touch with their need to project their sense of God onto someone else and call them holy and label ourselves as sinners. The gospel today is just exactly that. Jesus is in a home and this woman comes in and starts washing his feet and everything, and they say, "Oh, how can you be the Messiah if you don't know that this woman is a sinner?" They've labeled her as a sinner. They've othered her. They've separated her. They've distanced themselves. And Jesus comes along and connects. And that's what the healing is of forgiveness. She's reconnecting this woman with society, although all the others will not buy that. They still need someone to be other, outside, not one. We have this fear of oneness because we have a fear of losing our identity. But what we're losing is the identity that believes we're separate. And that's not our real identity. That's not being genuine. The real McCoy, sometimes they say, being genuine, real. What do you think? When you see someone and you call them genuine, what do you mean by that?
They probably have a sense of, they probably come across with humility and, I don't know.
Humility means the one who's being truthful. Humility comes from the Latin humus, which means grounded, earth, We speak of humus, right? And it's, the genuine person is a humble person. They know who they are, and they know who they're not. Okay? All right. So, I don't know if some of you were able to read this attachment I sent out. I made copies for you. So if you've all got it called Listen for the Sound of the Genuine. And it's on the sheets out there. And they're using some of the writings of one of my favorite writers, Howard Thurman, who was an African-American spiritual genius. He lived 1899 to 1981. And he was a spiritual mentor to what famous person?
Thomas Merton.
No.
Richard.
No.
Maya.
Pardon?
Maya.
No.
So he's an African American, right?
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., all right? He was a mentor for Martin Luther King Jr., okay. And Martin Luther carried writings with him wherever he went, in jail and everything else. So, it's interesting, this quote from Maya Angelou. She says, "When you learn, teach." In other words, you're called to share what we have been blessed with and share it, teach it, whatever it is. But mainly teach it by being genuine, by being who you are. Because actions do speak louder than what?
Words.
Than words. Words are cheap, Remember that song from My Fair Lady, Don't talk of words, show me, Show me. Be that what you talk about, okay? So, Howard Thurman writes, What is your name? Who are you? And can you find a way to hear the sound of the genuine in yourself? The fourth paragraph down. There's so many noises going on inside of you, so many echoes of all sorts, so much internalizing of the rumble and the traffic, the confusions, the disorders by which your environment is peopled, that I wonder if you can get still enough, not quiet enough, still enough to hear rumbling up from your unique and essential idiom, the sound of the genuine in you. I don't know if you can, but this is your assignment. It's interesting, he puts the distinction between being still enough, not quiet enough. I'm confused by that. I wonder why he put that.
Well, I think sometimes in the African American community, being quiet meant not getting in trouble by not saying anything. It was a passivity.
Okay.
You didn't want to. It was actually a way of not being offended.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, Greg, but it's true. I was raised in the South, in southeast Arkansas, and we had an African American woman as a maid for many years, and they frequently talk of yard boys who were working in their yards and cutting the grass. No matter if they were 60 years old, they were still a yard boy. And the maid always referred to my mother as Mrs. Lally, and my dad is Dr. Lally, and her name was Georgia. And that's all we knew was Georgia. And it's like such a little bit of inequality there. But anyway, it was just the milieu of the day, all right? There's something in every one of you that waits, listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself, and if you cannot hear it, you will never find whatever it is for which you are searching. You are the only you that has ever lived. Someone said, you are an expert on being you, all right? Your idiom is the only idiom of its kind in all the existences, and if you cannot hear the sound of the genuine in you, you will all of your life spend your days on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. That's pretty strong imagery, right? As if we're tough puppets, we're marionettes, and someone's pulling the strings and having our arms move and we're not called to be marionettes or puppets. We're called to be real. And we can only be real if we realize that we are connected. That's our realness. Our separateness is being ingenuine, ungenuine, whatever the word is. Okay. So, any comments on that? Does that ring true for anybody? If so, how?
I don't know if this is a good example, but, for so many years I was trying to live up to my dad's idea of perfection. You don't make a mistake. I could never make him proud of me. I didn't feel like I could make him proud of me, so I was always focused on what he would have me do instead of, me just being myself.
Right. And we surrender to that in order to be accepted, right? We surrender the genuineness of our true self so that we can be accepted and loved. And that's a shame because we need to find that genuineness again and find our sense of identity and our sense of both dependence and independence. It's both, in some ways we're dependent. We're dependent on, priests here to celebrate the Mass. We're dependent on people to pick up the garbage and all these dependencies. But we're independent in the sense of we are called to not go into the whole area of groupthink. Groupthink. How does everybody else feel? I'm going to vote for so-and-so because everybody, my neighbors do, and if I don't, I'll be, I'll be looked down upon, okay? And so we fall into this trap of fear that we won't be accepted if we are really who we are. Right? Yes?
A couple things. First of all, I think if you try to do one result, you can become very confused as to who you are. One. Secondly, you can also be so combative about who you are that you're always distinguishing yourself from other people.
Right.
Which also creates problems.
Okay. So that's the balance between dependence and independence, right? And let me just stress that this knowing who you are is not a mathematical knowing. 2 + 2 is 4, and so forth, or scientific knowing. It's the knowing of Scripture when it said Adam knew Eve. They had relations, marital relations. That is the deep kind of knowing that we're called to know. We're called to know God, not know about God. And a lot of people can't get enough reading about God and theology and everything. And part of it is their egos need to be in control, to be on top, to be able to defend your thoughts or whatever it is. But knowing calls for a real sense of surrender, a real sense of knowing that you cannot know yourself on your own, okay? Because that's giving in to the false self, which is the self that believes it's independent of God. And like Rohr says, to be independent of God is to be entirely too independent. Okay. So, but that's a good comment. I like that, right? Anybody else? Anything resonate with you?
I didn't quite hear, sorry, Father, when you said, what did Richard Rohr say, the last thing you said?
He said, to be independent of God is to be entirely too independent.
Okay.
In other words, it's that balance between God respects our freedom. See, that's the essence of it. If we're not free, we can't love. No one can say, you gotta love me, you married me, or you're my brother, or whatever, If the relationship is not based on freedom, it's not based on reality. It's not based on genuineness. And that means that we're called constantly to respect the freedom of others and ask them to respect our freedom. And avoid language that is obligational, like we've talked before. You should do this, you should do that. El lenguaje que es obligación. Tú debes hacer eso, tú debes hacer aquello, tú sabes. Como no fuera posible de tener tu independencia, ¿verdad? Tu libertad. So it's a matter of checking out our language, whether or not we are exercising our freedom, our dependence and independence, our respect of others and ourselves, and checking that language that it reflects what's real. And that's a constant struggle, because we live in a society that, well, we know constantly all these advertisements, they're saying, if you get this car, you're going to be the happiest potato in the bag, You're going to be so happy you can't stand it if you use this kind of deodorant or whatever it is. And it's so much falsity out there. And so we have become, for so many, skeptics, cynics, you know. We don't believe anybody. And so we get caught in that sense of fear that there's no truth at all. I've got to discover everything on my own, which is the definition of being postmodern. You know, don't accept anybody's decision for you. Nobody's doctrine unless you can personally experience it. There's a balance there. You need to experience it, but you need a base from which to draw. And it's a delicate balance, okay? I mean, like the church has wonderful doctrines and teachings, but they are and can never take the place of your conscience. They can offer you wonderful advice and suggestions, but they cannot say you have to believe this, because that's obligational language. That does not respect your independence and your free will. They're saying, we want you to believe this, but they don't phrase it there. You have to do this. This is obligational. You know, we talk about the day of obligation, holy day of obligation. Excuse me, do you want to fall in love with someone who's saying, okay, if you don't come to see me, you're going to pay? And that's exactly what that says. So people trot over into Mass and everything else because they don't want to be on the outs with God. They think, oh, if I miss Mass, God won't love me. I know this is not the common teaching, but God cannot not love you, because God is love, and God cannot be ingenuine. God cannot go against God's very nature, which is love.
I make a comment, sorry to talk over you. It just reminds me when I went to the Catholic Information Center back quite a few years ago. A priest that was there at the time when it was a holy day of obligation, he would say it was a holy day of opportunity.
Yeah.
And
I say that a lot too.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't you, Father.
I know, but it's a typical Paulist statement. You know?
Okay, thank you.
So you can see why we're not always top on the hit parade, you know. With anyway, I don't want to go into that.
Paulist Pope.
What's
We're
that?
not going to have a Paulist Pope.
We've never even had a Paulist bishop. Okay. One time we had one Paulist priest that was made of Monsignor, and he died within 2 months. Okay. And so, anyway, we don't live for those honors. Okay. Not that people that get those honors are always just wanting, but it's a delicate balance, because the ego is so powerful, you know. Well, if I just have this particular color of red or scarlet or whatever on, I am somebody, okay? Very clear in the gospel for this Sunday, we're called to be servants, not sovereigns. We're called to servant leadership. And the ego doesn't like that, you know, but that's another story. Okay. So, let's look at the last paragraph. Who are you? How does the sound of the genuine come through to you? Don't be deceived and thrown off by all the noises that are a part even of your dreams, your ambitions, that you don't hear the sound of the genuine in you, because that is the only true guide that you will ever have. And if you don't have that, you don't have a thing. In other words, I guess the sound of the genuine would be equal to our conscience, you know. Our conscience is our identity, who we are. We're connected, but we're not subjected. Okay, does that make sense? I just thought of that. I like that. I'm a big one for language, and that's one I can play with. Subjection and what was the other one?
Objective?
Objective and subjective. No, it was Anyway,
I don't know.
we had a passing senior moment and it's gone. Okay. All right. You may be famous, you may be whatever the other ideals are which are part of this generation, but you know you don't have the foggiest notion of who you are, where you're going, what you want. Cultivate the discipline of listening to the sound of the genuine in yourself. This is teachings of Howard Thurman. Do we find that resonates? Please, because I've always said that don't accept anything because I say it or anyone else says it, only if it resonates with your genuine self. That's when you grow. Not because, oh, so-and-so said so, I've got to do it. That's passing the buck. I got to do it, the Pope said I have to do it. No. You can't, the old scene, I don't like the scene, but the scene of going up to St. Peter. Well, I just did what I was told, okay? You can imagine the Nazis doing that, you know? I just killed the 6 million Jews because I was ordered to, right? We need to take another look at obedience. Obedience comes from the Latin obedience, which means to listen, and to listen to everything. The church, the government, the other people, your conscience, and then you decide. And we don't like that because we don't like that kind of liberty or that kind of responsibility. And we like other people to tell us what to do. It's true. Some people just, they come in counseling and they, well, Father, just tell me what to do. I've got this issue and tell me what to do. I play dodgeball. They throw the thing out to me, hey, tell me what to do, Father. Oops, it goes right by me. I don't catch that ball. Because if I do, and I tell them, well, this is what you got to do. If it works, who gets the credit? I do. If it fails, who gets the blame? I do. I don't want that. I got enough on my own plate, okay? So, people do not come to me and leave thinking that they've gotten the answers from me, that they can just follow and be completely good, okay? Doesn't work that way. So, we just have a couple of minutes. Can we have any observations, questions, comments? Maria Carmen.
Right on.
What's that?
Right on, and don't listen to everything that you say.
Right.
Even you say.
No, listen, but don't think you have to believe it or follow it. You take it into consideration along with everything else in life. Your life experiences, the teaching of the church, everything. Just take it all in, and you are the one who is to take responsibility for all your decisions. And a lot of people do not want to take responsibility. They want to blame someone else. Am I right or wrong? Why? Fear. Fear of punishment. Fear of making a mistake. What's that?
Fear of being excluded from the circle.
Fear of being excluded. You got that right. Yeah. Anybody else?
I hate being told what to do. Just hate it.
Lawyers hate it.
Well,
I don't mind somebody to say, if I say to them, what would you like me to do?
Right.
And I know, okay, I could choose, but
Right.
yeah, I don't find any refuge in being told what to do. I'm
Well,
just contrary.
it's because it goes against your sense of who you are, your genuineness.
Which is a little too strong sometimes.
Well, it needs to be independence balanced with dependence, right? It's not an easy struggle. Ruth Ann, yes.
The title, Listen to the Sound of the Genuine, I'm looking at that and thinking, which is the most important word for me, and I'm coming up with two, listen and genuine. And it's reminding me that the Benedictine monks, I guess you say, the first word in their rule is listen.
Right.
the very first word in their rule is listen. And boy,
That's true. I was in a Benedictine monastery for 14 years.
okay.
I heard that over and over.
A little bit.
All right, obey, obey, obey. But they didn't always get the concept of obedience that I shared, okay? They expected more. In fact, you were basically told if you're obedient, you are infallible. And I never bought that. I never bought that. You know, they like order, control. You know, you are subject to our demands, all right? And that's probably one of the reasons I left the monastery in 1968. I had a wonderful 14 years there, but I am thanking God every day that I am no longer there. I love the Paulists and their deep respect for everyone's individuality. You'll never, like you can't find two snowflakes alike, you'll never find two Paulists alike. We're all characters.
Because if to be obedient is to be infallible, what if the person that you are obeying is not infallible?
Well, there's the catch. There's the catch 22, right?
You have your own responsibility to figure out what the truth is.
That is always our responsibility. What is true? What is genuine? That's our universal vocation, okay? So, we are not going to be able to discover on our own who we are. Why? Because we are who we are in connection with others, with God, with nature, and it's a common search for the real, the genuine, the W-H-O-L-L-Y, okay? So, we can only really listen for it in deep silence. And that's why we emphasize so much the silence, to let the Spirit who is within you and who is you to reveal to you over and over who you really are in God. So let's enter into that silence and listen, all right?